It was our first weekend at the new countryside property. I had bought it after years of saving up, a quiet escape from the city noise and chaos. The pond in the backyard was the gem of the place, surrounded by open fields, ducks gliding across the surface, and a red barn standing like something from a postcard. I named it Willow Pond. I had always dreamed of kayaking in the early mornings with my golden retriever Bailey. She loved water more than any dog I'd ever known. Her tail wagged the moment she saw the life jacket. She would jump in before I even got the paddle ready. This Saturday was no different. Bailey sat proudly at the front of the kayak as we glided slowly across the pond. The water was still. The sun peeked over the horizon. I breathed in the fresh country air and smiled, thinking how lucky I was. Then I heard a shout that shattered the silence. "Get out of the water. You're trespassing," came a sharp, angry voice from the shore. I looked over and saw a woman, probably in her late 40s, blonde, athletic build, hands on her hips, fuming like I had just stolen her car. She wore a purple polo and yellow shorts that screamed tennis mom energy. I raised a hand in greeting and said, "Good morning, I live here now, just enjoying my pond." I even smiled, trying to keep things polite, but she stomped closer and pointed aggressively. "That pond belongs to the community. You can't just take it over. I'm calling the HOA and the police." I blinked, confused. "There's no HOA out here, and this pond is on my land. I bought the property." "Ma'am, it's listed clearly in the deed," I said, still calm, but she was already dialing her phone. She shouted into the phone as if trying to alert the entire county. "Yes, there's a man in a kayak threatening me and invading community water." I chuckled out of disbelief and paddled slowly back to shore, Bailey wagging her tail like it was all a game. By the time I reached the edge of the pond, 2 police cruisers had pulled up near the barn. The officers stepped out looking slightly embarrassed already. They had that familiar posture of men used to being dragged into pointless drama. I greeted them with a wave, still seated in the kayak. "Morning, officers. Is there a problem?" I asked. Bailey barked in agreement, tail thumping the plastic of the kayak. The woman, who I now knew as Karen, stormed up to the officers. "That man is squatting here. He doesn't belong, and he's breaking pond safety codes. Look at the dog. No leash," she spat, like Bailey was some kind of alligator. One officer turned to me, suppressing a sigh. "Sir, do you have ID and proof of ownership?" I nodded, paddled to the shore, and handed over the documents I always kept on me for situations just like this. While the officers reviewed them, Karen stood there, arms crossed, tapping her foot, sneering at me like I was lower than mud. But as soon as the officers confirmed everything, her face began to twitch. "Ma'am," one officer said, polite but firm, "this gentleman owns the property, and the pond is within his boundaries. There's no HOA jurisdiction here." She started to protest, but he raised a hand. "You can't just call 911 over property envy." Karen went red in the face, turned on her heel, and stormed off shouting over her shoulder, "This isn't over. You don't belong here." It wasn't the last time I saw her. The next week, I noticed odd things. My mailbox had been knocked over. The ducks were gone from the pond, and Bailey came back from a walk with something sticky on her fur. Like glue, I started installing cameras around the property. Quietly, without drawing attention. The footage confirmed my suspicion. Late at night, Karen was sneaking onto the property, tossing trash into the pond, even trying to lure Bailey toward her with treats. I compiled the evidence but didn't act yet. I had a better idea. The following Saturday, I held a pond party, invited a few neighbors I had met at the feed store, kind folks who shared fresh eggs and news about tractor repairs. I let them fish from the dock, handed out lemonade, and played calm jazz near the barn. Karen showed up uninvited, marched right up to the grill I had set up, and tried to scold everyone. "He's polluting community land. You're all accomplices," she screamed, but this time no one believed her. I had printed out copies of the property lines and handed them to the neighbors, who now just rolled their eyes at her. One of them, a retired Marine named Hank, leaned in and said, "Ma'am, the only thing polluting this place is your attitude." Karen fled again, humiliated, but 2 nights later, things escalated. I woke up to Bailey barking violently near the barn. When I got outside, I saw a figure running toward the road. The barn door was slightly open. Inside, I found smoke. Someone had lit a small fire in the corner, not big enough to burn the whole barn down, but it was clearly meant as a threat. I put it out quickly and called the sheriff. This time, they didn't just take notes. They acted. The next day, they showed up at Karen's home with a warrant, searched her property, and found fuel cans, gloves, and even duck feathers. She had apparently captured the pond ducks and tried to release them elsewhere to make the pond seem empty. The sheriff told me she would be charged with trespassing, animal cruelty, and attempted arson. Karen was taken away in handcuffs, yelling that I had framed her. The neighborhood finally exhaled. Weeks passed. The pond was peaceful again. The ducks returned. Bailey healed from her stress, and I felt something settle deep inside me, a quiet sense of justice. I repaired the barn door, planted flowers near the dock, and added a sign, "Willow Pond, private," but I didn't close it off from others. Neighbors still came by, brought their kids to fish, asked about kayaking lessons, and I always said yes. Karen eventually moved out. Her house sold to a sweet young couple who brought goats and laughter. No more shouting matches or surprise police visits, just calm sunsets and dogs paddling in the water. I learned a lot that summer, about peace, about standing your ground without shouting, and about the strange kind of people who can't stand someone else being happy. But in the end, the pond stayed mine, and so did the quiet joy that came with it. Would you like a shorter version, or script adaptation for voiceover too? Summer faded into early fall, and for the first time since moving in, the air around Willow Pond felt truly calm. Mornings began with golden light shimmering on the water, and the soft splashes of ducks returning to their routines. Bailey, tail wagging, would greet the day with me as we stepped onto the dock, her paws tapping the wood in rhythm with the windmill creaking in the distance. No more shouting from across the fence, no patrol cars, no anxious watching of the driveway. Just silence, peace, and the kind of stillness you earn, not find. Karen's house, once a fortress of bitter energy, was now a home again. The new couple, Jamie and Micah, had moved in with big smiles, muddy boots, and two curious baby goats named Clover and Beans. They waved every morning, brought over homemade jam, and asked about starting a garden near the back fence. I welcomed them fully, even offered to till the soil with my tractor. The transformation was almost too perfect, like someone had scrubbed the entire place clean of bad memories and filled it with promise. But the truth is, I still checked the cameras every night. I still walked the perimeter after sundown, not because I was afraid, but because I had learned the hard way that some people don't just argue, they attack. And even when they're gone, you remember the fire, the barking, the shouting. You remember how close peace came to slipping away. One evening, as I sat in the kayak watching the last of the sun dip below the hills, Bailey resting her head on my knee, I thought about everything that had happened, about how a stranger's bitterness nearly ruined what was supposed to be a quiet new chapter, about how the law, the truth, and a stubborn golden retriever helped hold it all together. The sheriff stopped by once more that month, just to check. In he leaned against his cruiser, looked out over the pond, and said, "You handled it better than most would have." I nodded, but didn't say much. What do you say to that? That it wasn't about being strong or clever, it was about not letting someone else poison your joy. That's all I ever wanted. Just joy, just quiet. And now, every evening as I lock the barn door and toss Bailey her favorite ball, I smile at the sign near the dock, Willow Pond. Private. It doesn't mean keep out. It means earn peace, and you're welcome. The story didn't end with a dramatic take. It ended with the sound of ducks returning, goats bleating from across the field, and a man finally sitting in his kayak with no one yelling from the shore. It ended with still water and a full heart. And that, truly, was all I ever needed. If you love watching justice unfold like this, don't miss the next twist. Tap that like and drop your thoughts for more on QZ Stories, the home of true payback.